could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first up is 402, approval of the agenda. So we need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
403, we need a motion to approve Board of Education meeting minutes for May 7th, 2015.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Mrs. Beto, passes. Sorry I didn't say that last time, Mrs. Beto. 501, Patron Comments. During Patron Comments, any citizen of the Rockwood School District may make a statement or address the board concerning issues pertaining to the Rockwood School District at both monthly board meetings. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. To address the board, complete a blue, although it's white tonight, patron comment card between 6:30 to 7. We've already done that part. Comments are limited to 3 minutes in length. The board values and appreciates your taking the time to provide your comments. As a reminder to those who are making comments, the general practice of the board is not to respond to your comments at this time, but if appropriate, to provide a written response within a reasonable time period. And again, each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Matters related to employee negotiations, legal issues, real estate, personnel, and student matters are reserved for board discussion during their closed session. And if a number of people are speaking on the same issue, which now we only have one, so we don't have to talk about that. So, Jill Schilling, if you would come forward. As soon as you're ready, the 3 minutes will start.
Hello. I represent a group of concerned parents and citizens regarding the dangers and risks of synthetic fields. We would like to know, is there a possibility of delaying the current contract until more research and testing is done? So far, there are no studies that these fields are safe. The current studies have limitations such as sample sizes of 4 to 6 fields when there are 11,000 fields in the U.S., field age and temperature not considered, testing for inhalation of lead suspended in the air. Just for example, the CPSC and the EPA do not stand behind their 2008-2009 studies respectively, and by conducting inadequate studies that do not find safety issues, we can't conclude the studied product is safe. We can only conclude the product is not properly tested via very limited studies. So questions, what information was presented to the school board about synthetic turf, about grass? Did you know Rockwood currently only uses the fields for 60 hours a year? When there's a local parks department that has soccer lacrosse for 1,000 hours of activity per year. Both of these fields are built the same, a native-based field with no subsurface drainage. As I mentioned some proven dangers and health risks of synthetic fields, please consider these questions. How will Rockwood School District make certain our children are not exposed to lead, prevent heat-related illnesses, make certain that our children do not inhale fine particles? Please note that exposure to lead and extreme temperatures was presented to the CSIP Finance Committee along with other concerns as early as December 31st, 2014. Coconut infill. This is not organic. You have to be certified by the USDA to be organic, which means we could be exposing our children to pesticides. The cork infill comes from the cork oak tree according to field turf. It can cause hypersensitivity pneumonia, which can lead to permanent lung scarring. Children will be inhaling fine particle cork dust, which can get deep in the lungs and cross the blood-brain barrier. Extreme temperatures. It is very common for these fields to reach 120 to 150 degrees, no matter what the infill is used. In testing, they're on an average 76-degree day. The lowest temperature recorded was 154 degrees on the synthetic field. Even if you cool, the temperature can raise back to unsafe levels within 5 minutes and residual temperature within 20 minutes. The fibers in a synthetic field control the heat per 3 studies. Lead. We tested our field turf fibers, including the colored fibers, for lead. Field turf fibers are made from polyethylene. I have a source that polyethylene contains lead. In a study that Dr. Knos provided with me over email, the last statement is exactly what we're saying. Further work must be necessary to assess the actual scenarios of exposure by inhalation and the corresponding risks. I'm sure you're aware of the NBC report with Amy Griffin. There's 136 cases now of soccer players with cancer. It hasn't been studied yet. Everyone wants to point to the crumb rubber, but they don't know. It could be a breakdown of the polyethylene fibers, according to Dr. David Brown, SCD toxicologist.
Okay, thank you for your time. Next up is Superintendent and Board comments, and we'll start with Dr. Knost.
Thank you. I want to start with a few introductions. We did some hiring with the Board of Education in closed session tonight, and it's been our practice this year to introduce those folks in open session. So I want to start with our new Coordinator of Educational Equity and Diversity, Mr. Vincent Fluellen. Everyone welcome. Vincent comes to us from Ladue, and we're excited to bring him on board and get him started July 1. So welcome, Vincent. Thank you. Glad to have you. Additionally, we also did a hire tonight for our coordinator K-12 for guidance and counseling, and I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Todd Minicello. How do I do on the name? You okay? Minicello. Todd comes to us from the Valley Park School District, where he comes highly recommended by the superintendent and many others in the district, and we're thrilled to bring Todd on board again July 1. He just told the board he's ready to start today. So, welcome Todd. Also, just a quick announcement, a few other things, not here for introductions, but we have hired Dr. Sean Riley to be our assistant principal at Geggy Elementary School. Sean comes to us from Wright City. We're excited about that. He's going to bring some great talent into Geggy. And also an announcement tonight that our current Kellison principal, Mr. Brian Gintz, has requested to transfer out of his role as head principal, and he will be next year, is approved that he will be next year at Ellisville Elementary as their administrative intern. So we're excited about that. We think that's a good fit for Brian Gintz, and we're happy for him as well. A few other announcements. Chesterfield Elementary is getting accolades for their environmental work. They were one of only 24 schools to receive a $2,500 grant from the National Wildlife Federation this year, and were just named as Eco Schools USA Bronze Award winners. So congratulations, Chesterfield Elementary. Marquette High School students Trishna LeMay and Ashleisha Pujari, I think I did that pretty well, are quite the duo. In fact, they are the 2015 Eastern Missouri National Qualifiers for duo interpretation for the National Speech and Debate Association. They will now head to the largest academic competition in the world, the National Speech and Debate Tournament in Dallas. So congratulations to Trishna and Ashleisha. This year, 11 Rockwood schools earned 14 Promising Practice Awards from Character.org. Each year, the organization recognizes schools and districts from the U.S. and across the globe for their innovative practices in the area of character education. It's actually the Character Education Partnership out of Washington, D.C. that grants these. Congratulations to Baldwin Elementary, Bowles Elementary, Chesterfield Elementary, Eureka Elementary, Fairway Elementary, Kerrs Mill Elementary, Kellison Elementary, Ridge Meadows Elementary, Utah Valley Elementary, Selvage Middle School, and Lafayette High School for being recognized nationally for promising practices in character education. And that's not the only exciting announcement with character education. Selvage Middle School and Pond Elementary School have now been named 2015 National Schools of Character. It's National Schools of Character by also the Character Education Partnership. Rockwood now has 13 National Schools of Character, and you may recall in 2006, the Rockwood School District was named a National District of Character. So that's quite exciting that we're continuing in our efforts to educate the whole child. It's just so important, not only academics, but the social emotional needs of our children as well. Crestview Middle School 6th grader student Ashna Chally was named champion of the Missouri You Be the Chemist Challenge. This is the first year the competition has been held in Missouri. Rockwood helped pilot the inaugural year. Ashna will now represent Missouri and Philadelphia at the national competition in June. The trip will be all expenses paid. Congratulations to Ashna. And just some bond issue progress report. We're replacing the gym floors in all 4 Rockwood high schools. That moved forward this week as the crew started removing the old floors at Rockwood Summit, Lafayette, and Eureka High Schools. Work has also started at Eureka and Marquette Athletic Field. It's quite exciting if you take a look at what's going on there. A lot of construction, and that's moving along fine. In fact, today, we kind of knock on when we say this, we're kind of ahead of schedule. Correct? Too nervous when you're saying that, Tim, are you? Yeah. Yeah. So far, so good. And I will comment, I know the speaker has talked with me and has made comments about concerns with things like lead in the fields and much of the information. There are a lot of opinions out there, and while I respect the sources that came forward, most of the sources we provide are considered either outdated or invalid. We think that obviously these are things we did consider. When I talked to Dr. Brown that was mentioned, when I've talked to Brian Winka, what has been said to me is we made the right move in considering organic infill over crumb rubber. A large percentage of the information that's provided for us steers directly to the concerns with crumb rubber, which is exactly why we went away from crumb rubber. We got a lot of feedback from our community that said they'd like us to consider alternatives, and we did that. So we think that we did the right thing. We do consider to entertain and look at information that's sent to us, but the progress on those projects are moving along nicely. Finally, one last thing that I want to announce, and I know we've said some things publicly before, but this is Dr. Jim Whitke's last board meeting as in his role here in Rockwood after many, many years. And I just, one last time, want to thank him publicly, not only for your hard work and your dedication to this school district, going all the way back to being a student, graduating from the school district, but also just to thank you for your friendship, Jim. It's just been a real blast working with you this year, and I just really appreciate what you've done for the kids in this district, and wish you nothing but great things in Fox. I think they are in for a really, really good run with your leadership.
Thank you. For a rest, so thank you.
That's all I have.
All right. Any board comments by anyone?
I do. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Kinder?
Mr. Dole usually does this, but since you can see he's not here tonight, I would like to recognize our 2 scouts that are here tonight. Now, I'm assuming, if I remember what Mr. Dole used to say, is they're earning badges. And would you please stand up and introduce yourselves?
Okay, I'm Mitchell Hinshaw, and this is Braden Haas, and we're from Troop 623, and we're here because it's a requirement for our Communications Merit Badge.
Where do you gentlemen go to school at?
We go here at Crestview.
Crestview.
Good.
Congratulations. Thank you very
Thanks
much.
for being here.
We also had 4 graduations was that last week?
Yes, it was.
And as usual, Rockwood always puts on the best graduations that you can ever see. They're very classy. The students are outstanding. The administrators are outstanding that helped with this, and the parents are always outstanding. And the Chaffetz menu is very nice. And You're not going to find any better graduations than those 4 last week. Thank you.
I'm a little partial because my son graduated, so yes, I agree. That was very nice. Anyone else? Okay, moving right along to consent agenda items. So we need a motion to approve the consent agenda items as submitted.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed, no. Mr. Beto, it passes. On to agenda items. First up, 8.01, Comprehensive School Improvement Plan updates. And we have a lot of people coming up. Dr. Hargadine, Dr. Ripke, Dr. Brown. Anyone else?
We're going to tag team. We're going to do our little section and then we'll break the rest. Thank you for having us here tonight. If you remember, back in the fall, we presented our CSIP to you and told you what we were going to accomplish this year and promised you a follow-up at the end of the school year. So here we are with that follow-up. We're here tonight just to update you real quickly on what we have accomplished this year and to kind of let you know our path for the future. Each one of the small groups will be presenting on one of their focus areas so that we'll get through the entire CSIP tonight.
So in the area of student learning, I was one of the gold champions of that and had the opportunity to lead that this year. And so I think there's 3 important things that I want you to know in addition to the information that you've already received. First of all, the focus of RTI is a continuum for all students, irregardless of any identification. Unfortunately, the way the federal law is set up for IDEA, in that system you have to fail first. This allows us to support students all along the way, and that continuum of services that might have been missing, we're going to be able to support all kids. So that is one of the most important things that I want you to understand about RTI. Secondly, in our implementation of RTI in Rockwood, we're really going slow to go fast. What we needed to do was to slow down, create a plan. We needed to work with our buildings, find out where they were, and then establish a plan based on that. Because we already have some really good things going on in buildings, and our district role is to support that and to give some structure. And then the final thing in regards to RTI is, and you've probably heard the Peter Drucker quote, that culture eats structure for breakfast or lunch every time. So basically how that applies to RTI is that next year, our focus, and it's actually our articulated goal, is to focus on establishing the culture that we need to build the structure of RTI on in the future. Again, we need to go slow to go fast, focus on the culture, not the structure. Some of those will come along. So that's going to be where we kick off again with administrators. So that's kind of an overview of RTI. The other piece that I had the opportunity to work with, we can go ahead and move to the next slide. There you go. Oh, that's just an overview. You've already seen it. But we do have modules set up for next year. It is with early childhood education. So as you know, Dr. Barlow is retiring. I'm moving into that role. So it's been a perfect fit that with CSIP, I've been able to become acquainted with the things that he's doing, have conversations with the progress that they are making in those areas that have been identified in the CSIP. And I'm excited to be able to continue to lead that on. Is there any questions about those 2 sections?
Can you somehow send each board member a short packet about RTI so we can study it some?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to.
At the middle school level and the high school level, we have obviously done a lot of work with Jane. Kudos to Jane for her work with RTI and what she's done for our district. Making sure that we're all on the same page from elementary to middle to high school, and she's laid the foundation for that. So that's been a bulk of the secondary work as well, and working with Jane on those topic areas. However, it is time to start to look at the middle school schedule. It's time to start to look at the high school schedule, and that'll be flowing into next year. I want to tell you that I have had several meetings with Dr. Lisa Counts, who's taking my position next year as I transition out of the district. She's wonderful. She's very well versed on where we're at with the Comprehensive School Improvement Plan from a secondary level. You can see at the middle school level, there's one thing that was probably an overwhelming theme that has come up, especially this year. I've had several patrons come up and talk to me about the early start time at the middle school and the middle school schedule. And they've been wonderful. The parents that have contacted me have been absolutely very understanding, but do know and expect that we're going to look at that for next year in terms of trying to come up with some solutions for that early start time. I think it's natural to say, well, just flip your high schools and your middle school times, but that early start time isn't great for middle school kids, and guess what? It's not great for high school kids either. So we're going to need to look at that, and again, Dr. Counts knows that that's a hot topic item on the agenda. At the high school level, you can see the things that we've already been looking at and taking care of. Those are things that we rank very high out, our AP enrollment and AP scores. But one of the things that we do need to improve on, and that has been recognized, is the social and emotional issues that affect kids at a high school level or middle school level, and what can we do within our schedule to meet the needs that are really increasing social and emotional needs of our kids at a secondary level. So we're going to need to look and review the high school schedule as well, and there's talk about how we can integrate more of an advisory period to have a connection with one staff member that kids can automatically go to, kind of as a go-to person that's systemic across our high schools. We have that to some degree in some of our schools. At Marquette High School right now, they have gold champions that match up with kids, and at Summit they're doing some things like that. But we want to get it where it's organized and again, it's systemic across our high schools. And so that's a piece to the schedule that'll definitely need to be studied and looked at for the future. Oh, do you have any questions?
For curriculum, you've already heard most of the things that are on the PowerPoint. We've been able to present to you throughout the school year all of our things that we've been working on. Some of the highlights are the increasing of enrollment for the challenge courses at the middle school and how we revamped that. Developing the common assessments, as you know, as we've presented the new curriculum, we've also presented how we've been working on the common assessments that have gone along with that. And then, of course, working on the first best instruction for curriculum and for our teachers and staff. And we've provided a lot of professional development opportunities throughout this school year and the summer, and we've also have many more planned for next year. If you remember, we presented that all three of those things at earlier meetings throughout the school year. Also on our student learning and curriculum section, we've talked about the new curriculum management plan and the new website. Both of those were spoke about at the last board meeting when we presented the website, and on that website had the new curriculum plan. One of the nice things that we've been able to do as we've worked with not only our curriculum coordinators and facilitators, but also with our community members that have been a part of our student learning workshop, is be able to go through all of these and have embedded through the public and through a lot of our patrons. And they've given us a lot of feedback in all three of the areas that we've spoke about tonight, and we've incorporated those into all of the things that we've done and that we've presented to you. Do you have any questions in that area? Okay, next up is highly effective workforce.
So we have an advisory committee that met throughout the year, and you can see we had 3 meetings, and we monitored our progress towards our CSIP, which our 3 main goals are recruit and hire, retain, and then highly qualified staff. So what we did as a committee is we did a SWOT analysis of strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats, and set some goals for ourselves for the following year. So this is going to be ongoing learning and ongoing committee work. We have a great cross-section of committee members, of parents, community members, and staff members on the committee, and we're going to continue our work into next year.
On the district finance area, we had both the facilities and the technology areas that are covered. You can see the dates that we had our advisory committees. The big one in the finance area was in the facilities planning, and of course we went through all of those steps in order to kind of determine what the needs of the district are. And then one of the goals then was to obtain appropriate funding to do that, and we were successful in doing that as well. So we met those goals, and I'll let Will talk about the others.
Regarding print management, which is part of the balanced budget goal, we've been doing a lot with communicating out to the principals about the cost per page and how much print costs have been going forward, and educating staff on the different costs for the different types of devices they print to. So try to build that up. Then under goal 4 for technology, those are things that we actually do operationally. Looking at the configuration, what types of computers are needed. We work with the staff, the curriculum department. We work with principals to make sure we have the right things in place for that. Looking at the different models that are out there and reviewing our infrastructure to make sure that we're prepared and ready to support the requirements of both the curriculum department and the teachers in the classroom.
And the last goal area deals with school climate. You can see the dates that our committee met. We did a lot of work on specific strategies and tactics. I would highlight the ones where we're working on some training through some professional development, being sure that we are continuing to emphasize character education and making that a part of everything that we do. It is not a specific program or a specific initiative. It is the way that we live our lives and how we want our students to live our lives. Tied to that was some other professional learning around digital citizenship. Another one that I would highlight is the standardization of formats for our crisis plans. And this actually came up through our biannual meeting that we have with all of our emergency responders, who said, you guys have great crisis plans, but every one of your schools has a different format and style. And it would be really nice if those were all similar. So one of the groups spent a great deal of time working on that. As you know, another priority relates to Tier 3 in terms of response to intervention for students' emotional needs. And so we're working on areas with that particular objective. And then finally, be sure that we're maintaining high quality before and after school programs. And you know that we do that through Community Ed and through Adventure Club. And that is the school climate goal.
I have a quick question.
Yep, go ahead.
The crisis plan standardization? Sorry.
Yes.
If it's standardized across the board, wouldn't it make the schools more vulnerable to infiltration? I understand it.
No, I understand. It's the format of them. So think in terms, I can share back many years ago, each one of our school websites contained the same information. But if you had two children, one in an elementary and one in a middle school, you went to the elementary school page, and to find the staff, you had a tab that was over on this side, and then it had something about the PTO. When you went to your middle school child's website, that information was included, but it was over here in a different location. So what we looked at was standardizing the design, layout, format of that information, so that when an emergency responder goes into a school and he or she is handed that plan, he knows that it's organized in the same way and that the same pieces of information are going to be contained.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are pieces of a crisis plan in that regard, in regard to law enforcement intervening and such, that would never be public.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, these are not
There are
published.
pieces of it that are
That's what I was
unique,
saying.
to each building.
Perfect.
So yeah, it's a good
So Dominique, their
clarification.
floor plans and all of that, that's not anything that's for the public. So that would not prohibit, or it wouldn't encourage the types of things that you're talking about.
Okay.
Good question.
Any other questions for anyone else? Okay.
I agree.
Yep.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Just one other question about, you said increase the percentage of families who receive the parents as teacher visits. I know there were some issues with being able to receive if you were in the plan to receive all of your visits and the funding and what have you, and they had to cut back on the visits. And then, is there a specific way that you guys are going to find the families? Because I know there's a lot of people that move in the district that aren't aware.
Right, we're always seeking families. We definitely want to support families with greater needs, with more family visits. And I was excited to learn, I just had a meeting today with Diane McKinney, that all parents who wanted services for their family this year did receive services. Now that varied based upon the needs and also the times that they could meet and the availability of our parent educators. But I was really excited because we did have discussions on how we're going to meet all our parents' needs, but we serviced all the families that requested this year. So that is our goal, and then to service those more at-risk families with more board visits as much as possible.
And Jane and Kim, along those lines, can you all speak to, because I know we rely heavily on word of mouth as far as those PAT services, but what do we do as far as communicating to perpetuate that opportunity for our families?
And a lot of it is word of mouth, because people hear about families. We also have information that's out of our doctors and our pediatricians, our hospitals that are in the area where most of our babies that are within our community are being born, are being given handouts and information about our Parents as Teachers program. But most of it is word of mouth, and we have a lot of people coming and asking for that service.
Have you guys reached out to like the realtors when people buy the homes for that information? As far as the doctors, they receive that information as well?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the beginning.
Realtors, like when a family, the same information if they have a child that's within our
That's a
district?
great question. I'm not sure if we've capitalized on that or not.
So we work with all of our different realty associations, which there are a number of them. We provide information for them, and that has actually been something that we have shared with them. We used to give them actual packets, but now they want everything on the websites, and so we give them that information. So if you're a new family, that would be something that the realtors would be aware of and that they could access for those new families moving into the district.
Thank you.
Good. Anyone else?
If I could just
One more?
state, first of all, thanks to the staff for a great update and something that in the first year that I've been really impressed with. It's always been important to me to make sure that school districts that I'm associated with have a CSIP for the right reason. It's not a required document from DESE that we develop and put on a shelf. It should drive what we do in our district, and ours does. And ours is really dictating a lot of what we do and how we do it in the way of, we're not rolling out initiatives that aren't supported inside of the CSIP plan. It's a very robust plan, and it is not on the shelf collecting dust. It's what we do. It's what we're doing every day. It's what these folks are doing as my cabinet. It's what driving what they do. So thanks for their work. Karen, thanks for your leadership with it. And Katie, yours in previous years, and we'll continue that going forward. It's just good to see a robust, comprehensive school improvement plan driving the school district.
I was going to say thank you too, but he beat me to it. So there you go. All right, moving on to 8.02. Tim Rooney coming up for the proposed budget for the fiscal year 16, an update, and also Dan Steinberg. Go ahead.
Good evening. We are here to provide an update on the 2015-16 operating budget. We're in the process of finalizing the budget documents that will be presented at the end of June and the June 18th board meeting. So the conversation tonight is going to focus on the operating side of the budget, and when we come back in June, that will be the full budget, which will include the self-sustaining funds, the debt service funds, as well as with the most recent bond passage, the bond fund. So we'll just provide a quick recap on our timeline. We presented a estimated balanced budget in December. So we'll be back in June to ask for formal adoption of the budget, which we are required to adopt the budget by July 1. So we will be back in June 18th with that final budget. First one to start with just an update on our current fiscal year, the 2014-15 operating budget. This information comes from our monthly projection reports, so there's not a whole lot of change from the most recent update. But our revenues for this fiscal year are expected to increase $3.4 million, mainly due to local property taxes and our state formula. Our expenditures are expected to increase $2.6 million, which is going to provide us with an ending fund balance on an accrual basis of $48.7 million, which is 0.7 over what we had initially budgeted, so it's a positive. So going on to 2015-16, the revenue assumptions that we're using on the major revenue sources, our assessed valuation, which drives our local revenue. We are anticipating a 4.3% increase on our assessed valuation. That does include new construction. So this is a reassessment year, so the numbers came in higher, and it's positive because it's an indication that the economy is turning around. So Our tax rate will be limited when we come back in September when we set the tax levy. We will be limited to CPI, but right now our forecast is based on a 4.3% increase in assessed valuation. The basic formula, so that's our state formula. The major change, as you'll kind of notice in the next slide, where I'll show a recap of our revenue numbers. Back in December, we had talked about Senate Bill 1689, which included a provision that would prorate the state adequacy target if it wasn't fully funded. So Senate Bill 1689 was not overturned, but there were some positive additions to the formula itself that allowed us to recapture some of the formula money. The state adequacy target will be at 6110, and it's going to be 100% appropriation. So currently, right now, in the 14-15 school year, our appropriation is 97%. So that allowed us to recover approximately $2.3 million in revenue from the state. And then our other state local revenue will essentially remain flat. This provides kind of a snapshot of a comparison of our current year budget as well as the budget that was initially presented in December and where we are now. As you can see, our revenue for 2015-16 increased $2.3 million, which is directly related to the state funding. For expenditures, salaries and benefits is the bulk of our expenditures. It's approximately 82% of our budget. It includes those salaries and benefits that have been either previously approved by the board. It also includes the restatement of curriculum adoptions, which allows us to cycle in adoptions to allow for materials to be in place at the beginning of the school year. The one item on capital is our operating budget does not include any kind of budget for maintenance because that's being funded by the bond issue. So this provides a summary of our changes in our expenditure budget that we presented from December. It is going up a net of $500,000, which primarily is related to being able to add some additional curriculum cycles. So overall, this year for 14-15, we are planning to be in deficit spending, but that was a budgeted deficit at the beginning of last year. We started out with a balanced budget in December, and we are able to, based on current estimates, we'll have a surplus of $1.9 million, which will allow us to end at June 30, 2016 with a fund balance of approximately $50.5 million, which is just a bit over our target of 22%.
So we do prepare a budget that qualifies for the Meritorious Budget Award from the Association of School Business Officials International. And so it takes us about a month to put that together. So we like to show you the budget once, just before we go through that whole process, and then we'll bring it back to you on June 18th for final approval.
Any questions?
That's good.
He says it's good.
We think so.
Everybody else think it's good? We all think it's good. Thank you very much.
Dan, Tim, thanks.
Yep, very good.
Brains and your leadership. Invaluable.
All right, next up, we need a motion to approve revision to the 2015-16 school calendar for August 28th, 2015.
So moved. Second.
Discussion,
Yes.
Dr. Canos.
Okay, so this relates to what we call our 4 E's tactical training. The 4 E's, that's something we're doing through St. Louis County Police. The 4 E's stands for educate, evade, escape, and engage. And it's the approach to training our schools, our staff, in the event of intruders coming into our school. And most school districts are going through this training. We actually had intended to have everybody trained by this year. There was a plan last year, right when I was coming into the district, and we had a key position. Our student services position was not filled, and there's some key leadership with that role. So we wanted to do it when we could do it right, so we postponed it, and Beth Canase has worked hard this year to schedule all of that planning that started this spring, sometime I think in April, and was to conclude in very early fall, where all of our schools would be trained. And that's been working out really well. The training has been great. The schools have loved it. We're very, very pleased with what we're doing. We've stumbled on something a little bit, and our plans, the date that we had planned for our high school training, St. Louis County had to back off on that date, which was in early August, and they are all on call. And just to full disclosure, they're thinking of the anniversary associated with the Michael Brown shooting, and so they cannot be available, and we obviously have to respect that. The issue is we got together and analyzed every possibility to move that high school training, and everywhere we turn, we hit a roadblock. And we don't want to obviously sacrifice planned professional development. Things are very key to our comprehensive school improvement plan. And it came down to two options. One would be to postpone it all the way till next year. We don't think that that's the prudent thing to do when we've got all of our schools trained, and high schools tend to be, with the population, the size, and people coming in and out, maybe potentially the most volatile of all situations. So we really don't think it's good to postpone the high school training until next summer sometime. The only other option is to alter our calendar and to do an early release day for high schools only. We've analyzed the calendar, we've talked with St. Louis County, they have approved this date, so we're recommending that the calendar be altered for an early release day for high schools only, a half-day early release on Friday, August the 28th, to then allow us to do the training for the high schools. And Katie, I don't know if you have any anything to interject in regards to the calendar committee. This is really kind of a handcuffed thing. I mean,
It's not a decision of the calendar committee,
Right.
as our staff development days are not a decision of the calendar committee. It's a function of the operations of the school district. So it really.
and it technically is professional development. It's added professional development because it's how our folks operate and be prepared. Hopefully, good news is this is one of those cases, things we want to prepare for and never use. We hope that it's all futile and that we never have to enact this training. But we would be absolutely foolish to not make sure that we are trained in the most up-to-date efforts.
Any discussion or questions? My soon-to-be freshman will be glad to have a half-day at the beginning of, yes, barely start school. Okay, so we need to, we have a motion, we have a seconded, so we need to, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
And opposed, no. And Mrs. Vito, it passes. Where'd Dr. Kinder go? I guess we don't need him. We do, but we don't need him. All right, next up, we need a motion to approve resolution authorizing and directing the issuance, sale, and delivery of general obligation bonds, Series 2015 of the Rockwood R6 School District, St. Louis County, Missouri, prescribing the form and details of the bonds, providing for the levy and collection of an annual tax for the purpose of paying the principal of and interest on the bonds as they become due, and authorizing certain other documents and actions in connection therewith.
That was a motion.
That was a motion? So moved. I said at the beginning. Second. And with us, we have Mr. Rooney, we have Michelle Bach, and we have Jason Terry.
And there's two parts of this. First, the kind of the financial. We took bids on the issuance of our bonds today, and I'll let Michelle talk about that. And then we have the legal side of it that Jason will talk about. So I'll just turn it over to Michelle.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here, and it's a pleasure to work with the Rockwood School District. This morning at 10 a.m., we received bids on a $35 million bond issue that you approved putting to bid a couple weeks ago. And we were very excited to receive 10 very good bids from bidders across the country. And Mesro Financial had the lowest interest rate at 2.83%. The bids varied from that low bid of 2.83 to a high bid of 3.01. I will say that this is the highest number of bids we've seen in quite a while. That has to do with, it's a great market, but it's also a great school district, AAA rated credit, which is fantastic. So there was a lot of interest, and you can see through the results of the sale that the financial markets think a lot of Rockwood School District, and so we're very thrilled to be here and tell you the good news.
Sure. I get the boring part. Michelle gets to tell you how great the district is, credit and the low interest rate. The legal side of it, the bond resolution before you approves authorizes the issuance and sale of the bonds. It approves all of the terms of the bonds, the interest rates for each of the maturities, the call provisions. It also approves some of the other necessary bond documents that go into marketing the bonds, namely the preliminary official statement, which is one of the attachments you'll see. That was the document that was distributed to potential investors who then will use it to sell the bonds. It approves some of the other necessary bond documents, including a federal tax certificate, because these are tax-exempt bonds. And with that comes obligations, most of which are going to fall on Tim, to make sure that the bond proceeds are spent within federal tax guidelines. If there's any that's kind of a 40,000 foot view of the bond resolution, but if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
What would be the pitfalls, or should we as novices be looking for as problems? Hoping that there are none.
From a tax exempt standpoint? Or from,
no,
I'm sorry.
just from a school district point of view. Is there anything we have to worry about? You guys take care of all that?
Legally? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not sure from
I'm not sure exactly what I'm questioning either. Tim, help me out.
Well, read his mind. There's several things. One is that we need to make sure that we use the bonds in accordance with the ballot language.
Yeah.
And we have the projects, and I showed you at a previous meeting the template that we're going to be using to monitor those projects, and under each of the categories we have all the various projects, and we're monitoring how each of them are coming in, how the bids are coming in, and making sure that they're within the totals. And then once we issue the bonds, we have some legal requirements to make annual disclosures on certain things for the investors, so that, because there continues to be a secondary market out there where these bonds are being sold. So we need to continue to provide additional disclosures to them. And we just recently had their help in working with the SEC is really cracking down on a number of issuers, and we were able to, and they had a method where they were asking issuers to self-report, and then they were also asking underwriters to tell us if there were any issues that they had, and we came up clean on that with their assistance. So there are a number of legal requirements we have to deal with, but
we're on top of those.
We are.
Is this anything major difference from years past when we've had bond issues, or is it basically the same method?
Yes, sir.
Good. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so we have the motion on the table. I'm not going to read the whole motion again, but we're in essence approving the resolution authorizing, directing the issuance of the bond. So all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
And opposed, no. Mrs. Beto, it passes. Thank you. All right. Mr. Rooney is sticking around for the next part, which is a motion to approve the contract with PFM Group for Investment Advisory Services.
Yeah, we will, the proceeds of this bond will come in.
That was a motion, right? We need a second. Moved and second?
I'll move it.
Did I miss that?
Second.
Okay, all right, now go ahead.
The proceeds of these bonds are anticipated to be here June 11th, and the entire 35 million. Plus the bond sold with a premium, so there will be a little over the 35 million will be received, and we'll then we want to make sure that we invest those while we're we're scheduling projects, and we won't pay those contractors for a while. So We want to make sure that we get the maximum investment earnings. It's not a whole lot at this point in time, but we wanted to have somebody who has fiduciary responsibility to us because there are a number of state laws as to what kinds of investments are allowed. And so we went out with a request for proposal to various advisory firms, and we only had one of the firms that actually had Missouri experience, and we think that's very important. They weren't the lowest on the list, but they do have extensive experience in Missouri. The Missouri's investment program, they've been involved in that program for 23 years and continue to be the advisor for them. And we will be putting the funds just right before we spend them. They will be in this in the MOSIP pool, and they are the consultant for that pool, as I said, for like the last 23 years. So we recommend that you approve the contract with PFM.
Did it also show they had some experience with schools as well?
Yes.
Is that, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they had Lindbergh Special School District in Independence.
Any questions?
How close were the bids?
The bids, they bid 8 basis points, which 1 basis point is 0.01 of 1%. So it's not a whole lot, but a difference with the next one being 7 basis points, the highest one being 15 basis points. And then we had one other that didn't bid on an interest rate basis, they bid on a fixed basis. So it kind of depends on how quickly the funds are spent to decide between that one and some of these that are based on the interest rate.
Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else? So we have a motion to approve the contract with PFM Group for investment advisory services. So all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? No. Okay, Mr. Vito passes. And Mr. Rooney, you're still here? Is anyone coming up with you? Is Chris Friend here?
No, he
Nope,
had
just
another
you?
commitment
Okay.
tonight, so I'm just going to go through.
So we need a motion to approve the bond issue purchases and related contracts, $7,500 to $150,000 as submitted. Second. Okay.
Okay, the first one is Florissant Sod Company. This is to redo the Wildwood Middle School field. That field was kind of an afterthought when the building was done. The contractor did it without putting the right pitch on that field, and as Chris said, you know, sometimes from one end of the field to the other you can't really see because the crown is so high. But it's scheduled to be redone. We did have a cycle maintenance portion of their bond to cover the rebuilding of the fields. So that's the one that's one that we plan on doing this summer, and they will actually grade it to, I think it's 1.5% grade, and then sod the field. That particular area gets a lot of play at school and after school. We have a lot of community ed programs here as well.
Have we used Florissant Sod Company before?
Yes. Oh, you want the next one?
You want the other one too? Yep.
Okay.
Any questions on besides his? Let's move on to the next one.
The next one is Robinson Fence Company, and this is also part of the bond issue. Well, of course, all these are, I guess. But this is in the back of Stanton. There's no barrier between the play area and the community, and we wanted that's something we've done at most of all of the schools, and that's one of our priorities with regard to security. So this would fence the area in back of Stanton.
Good.
Those homes behind Stanton?
There's homes, but then there's a tree line, and I think for years we've looked at the tree line as being an appropriate barrier, but you know, of course, you don't know what might be in the trees, and so as we've talked to the principal there, she has indicated that she believes that needs to be more secure.
Yep. Any other questions? All right, so the motion's on the table. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes. Yes.
Opposed, no. All right, passes, Mrs. Vito. And you're still here. All right, good.
Now, these are the ones that are over 150,000. We just have one today, and this would be from
Can we do the motion first?
excuse me.
Motion to approve the bond issue purchases and related contracts over $150,000 from Weiss Design Group for district asphalt improvements fiscal year 15. Why are you guys laughing? Second.
Because I'm trying to move it along too fast.
Oh. Hey, I'm doing my best. I'm
No,
doing
me.
a good job.
No, yeah, that's me.
Thank you. All right, there you go.
You get it? Okay.
Yes, you're good, Tim.
So
Sorry.
this is the only one we have in this category, but this is for Weiss Design Group. They're an engineering firm. As you recall, there's a special statute for engineers and architects that we're supposed to go through a process where we do a request for qualifications, and then after we do that, then we go in and we negotiate with the firm that we think has the best qualifications for this. The Weiss is a group that we haven't used in the past, although they're used in a number of municipalities and have gotten some really good references. So we wanted to use them. They do a lot in the area of flat work, like parking lots and so on. But we are planning to do the Rockwood South Middle School this summer, and if that project stood on its own, then the rate was going to be, let's see, about 13%. That's after negotiated. And we like to get our rates down to around 6%. And they do have a sliding scale, and we were able to negotiate a 6% contract with them for $3 million worth of asphalt work. And our bond project has $6 million in it. So we also have a clause in the contract that says that if we're not unsatisfied with their work, then this will be the only project that they'll do, and we'll still pay the 6%. So I think it's a pretty good deal for us, and I think it'll be good for us to have another engineering firm in our group that we can call on for these kind of projects.
And I really appreciate Tim and Chris kind of answering the call. I personally, I guess used my superintendent power to push to get the Rockwood South parking lot done this year. If you've been down, it's in bad shape.
Yep.
And you know, when Katie and I were there talking to the staff about we're talking about principal traits, characteristics for the principal to hire when we were going through the search. And I just really kind of felt their pain. They feel that there's some things in their school building in their area that have been overlooked. And so I think we need to do this for two reasons. It's a safety issue, number one. And second of all, I think we need to show that since it is part of the bond issue that overwhelmingly passed with the community, we need to show support and get that. I think it'll be so well received, not only by the staff, but the community as well. The community will notice that, see that, and it's just the right thing to do.
What you're talking about at South is, it's not the only school. I mean, we've got, like I said, we've got a lot of projects on there that we'll be doing and we'll be scheduling out over the 3 to 4 years.
Is that all the way out to Hawkins Road, or is it just the main part of the lot?
It's, yeah, it goes all the way to Hawkins, and it even goes into Kellison just a little bit. There's kind of an apron that comes out from that.
It's not good. Okay, good. Any questions? So we have a motion on the table, and all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Okay, Mrs. Vito passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rooney. Next up, we have a motion to approve the administrative pay plan for the 2015-16 school year.
Yes. So
We need a motion. We need
yeah, I'm sorry.
Moved.
Second.
What's so funny back there? All right. Now you're up, Dr. Knos.
Thank you. Full disclosure, I just sent a reminder to my team today to make sure that we, less is more, and that we stick to our PowerPoints, and so it seems like I think we're falling victim of kind of rushing through our pieces by not waiting for the motion. So that's why I think they're kind of heckling their boss here a little bit.
Okay.
Accepted. Yeah. So anyway, one employee group that we have not considered this year for the pay plan going forward is the administrators, and I'm coming to you to recommend that we increase the administrative pay plan by 2.75%. I feel this recommendation reflects a moderate increase as we continue with our intent to move our administrators closer to the county median. I think that we have outstanding administrators in this district. I've spent the year getting to know them, working with them, helping some of them improve in many ways, and seeing great responses from them. They're always eager to do great things for the students. They're building their student-centered, student-driven. We're a great school district. We need to continue with our ability to attract and retain administrators, and I've said often, and I truly believe this, that if you show me an outstanding school that's consistently outstanding, I will show you an outstanding administrator. You've got to have the teachers on the front line doing the battle, doing the great work that we do, and we have outstanding teachers in this district. And as we've said before, you have to have unity in school buildings, and it takes great leaders to lead, and that's why it's important. So again, recommending a 2.75 increase to the administrator pay plan.
Any discussion? Okay, so all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed, no.
I would like to abstain.
Okay.
All right, otherwise we're good. Mrs. Vito, it passes.
All right, thank you.
We have a motion, next up, 8.09, a PIN form. So we have a motion to approve the review of policies on non-discrimination.
Yes, and
Sorry. So moved.
Second. Now you can go, Dr. Knost.
so as the board is aware, and anybody that's been at our meeting, we did have a presentation of a PIN recommendation, both from the community, and also Ms. Paul submitted one afterwards as well, that we consider our policies on non-discrimination, and we see no reason why we shouldn't take the opportunity to review these policies. So keep in mind, we're not asking for any kind of approval of a change in policy tonight. We're just asking for the approval of us to consider any potential revisions regarding Rockwood policies and non-discrimination that include the policies listed there, 1305 non-discrimination, 1310 civil rights, Title IX, Section 504, 1320 non-discrimination on the basis of sex, and 4110 equal opportunity. So we think it's appropriate for us to review these, and if there are recommended changes after we review with our process of vetting these things, including legal input, we will come back with those recommendations.
Any discussion?
Well, this will follow probably the same procedure as the previous.
Yeah, I see it.
As far as the transgender.
Right. With the student, related to the students, I see it. I don't want to try to speak from a legal point of view or predict exactly, but I think of course we'll follow the same PIN process. We'll go through it. I think some of our conversations will be similar, and probably similar from the legal perspective as well. But we'll go through the process and bring that back to the board if the board approves us to do so.
Any other questions? Oh,
Is there another PIN? Because it says Dominique Paul included in another policy. Is that in there too?
Yes.
The two attachments.
Yes, the one was the students that did the presentation from Eureka High School, and then Dominique's followed that.
Okay.
Good.
After the meeting that evening, I submitted a PIN for them. I know the previous one for the LGBTQ, the transgender, they didn't submit a PIN.
Oh, so, okay.
But this one, I didn't know that they already submitted anything, and I just went ahead
Good.
to make sure it was
Okay,
addressed.
thanks.
Good. Any other questions? Okay, so all those in favor signify by saying yes to have this policy looked at.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed, no? All right, Mrs. Vito, it passes. And Mr. Rooney, we have a motion to approve the review of policy 3320, which is taxing authority, tax rate hearing. Anyone have a motion?
So moved.
Second, all right, go ahead, Mr. Rooney.
There's a state law that requires school districts in St. Louis County to do an estimated tax levy in April of each year, or I'm sorry, in April, but that's only in years of reassessment. In order to make that calculation, you have to have numbers from the county. The county is also required to give that information to the school districts every odd numbered year. Unfortunately, our policy said we need to do that every year, and we don't have the ability to do it because the county doesn't give us that information except for the odd numbered years as required by statute. So we're just trying to correct that and to indicate that that'll be done only on odd numbered years in accordance with the statute.
Okay, all right. Any questions? Okay, so all those in favor signify by saying yes?
Yes.
Opposed, no? Okay, Mrs. Vito, it passes. So next up, 8:11, proposed agenda for the June 4th, which is next Thursday, Board of Education meeting. Pull that up, please.
This is a very light meeting, and I think that's okay. If you may recall, this meeting was actually moved because of graduation. Otherwise, it would have been last week, so there would have been more time in between. We don't have any reason to stack the agenda full of things that aren't necessary. It is a necessary meeting for business office business and for our human resources business, so those are kind of not so much the open agenda presented things, but we need to have a meeting. But it's very, very light, and as I talked with our board president and told him and recommended that we really don't, it's okay for it to be a light meeting because we're meeting this week and we have had a pretty healthy agenda, although we've navigated through it quickly. But so there's really only 2 items for next week.
Dr. Westbury going to be here? He's on the agenda. Will he be here next week?
He will be here.
Anyone else?
He usually has quite a bit to say.
Yep.
Okay, I do have one other item that came to my attention. We are switching to Google for our mail system.
Okay.
And we would like to provide training for the board, professional development training for the board. So, and that would need to be either at the June 4th or the June 18th because we go to that July 1. And I didn't think about that. So that's something we'll look at the June 4th and the June 18th agenda both, and it'll be on one of those.
All right.
Can Debbie just come over and change it for us?
No.
She's welcome to do that, but you may want to know how to use it.
Okay, anything else to that agenda? You're good?
Yes.
Okay. And it looks as if, any events to attend? Are we? Nope.
Events.
Any events?
I'm going to mention Baldwin Days Parade.
June 6th.
June 6th. I'm the Grand Marshal.
Grand Marshal.
Oh.
And I understand we do have some of our students participating in the parade. I don't know how, but I just know that they are.
That's the same route it's gone for years?
I guess so. It's my bands used to march in the parade when I was both at Marquette and Lafayette, so it'll be kind of a blast from the past for me, but I'm assuming it's the same route.
All right, good. All right, anything else? Okay.
The Summer Academy starts on Monday.
Okay. Summer school starts on Monday. Okay.
4 weeks.
4 weeks. All right. Anything else? Because I'm ready. All right.
Gavel.
Meeting's adjourned.
Great job.